All right. Hey, it's Sam here with you on January 24th. We're mid-morning on a Wednesday. Now, I've got Bitcoin up here amongst our members. We're doing something cool now. We're voting on which coins get the video analysis, and one of today's winners was Bitcoin here. An update on Bitcoin. Now, we looked at this not too long ago as we came down here and put in this low. And so, of course, now the question is, do we have the low in? All right, we're all trying to get a handle on that. Of course, that Bitcoin is the big gorilla, and where it goes will certainly determine much of where the entire cryptosphere goes. So, do we have a low? Well, if you just look at that right there, right? So here, I'm sorry, I've got this. This is Bitcoin to the dollar on Bitstamp, which I've been using for a reference. And out here on the daily chart, if we look at that and try not to complicate things, if you just look at it, so we've got all of the ingredients we would look for here. We've got market geometry here. We've got the lower parallel on the median lines here on the pitchfork. Now that's the shift pitchfork, but we catch the low right here. We go, right into the golden zone here, right into the pocket of the 61865, and we're right into the pocket of the Vegas wave. It couldn't be any more technical. So, when we break it down, we go to smaller time frames. There's a tendency, I think, sometimes to overcomplicate. And a good exercise is almost always to just strip your chart bare and just go back to, okay, what do the dominant pivots tell me? Am I overcomplicating things? Is the low in? Could it be in? Is it, we keep it. There's a real real concern that we're going to need to go down here one more time, and that may well be what we see. And there is a bearish count that would push the market down substantially lower. Those are all contenders. But if we just sit there and look at that chart right now, if you knew nothing about what this was, forget that it's Bitcoin. You bring up that chart. It's hard to argue with the idea that's a good low, right? So really what we have now is we have two counts, and Bitcoin is being a bit difficult here in giving us clear tells on where it's headed next. So as is often the case, you'll need to have a bearish and a bullish count, particularly for something like Bitcoin, so that you're not surprised by anything, or so you're prepared for it, and we can look for tells as to who's winning out here, bulls or bears. So as I look at this now, it's certainly reasonable to make the assumption that we've got a good low. So as we drill down to smaller time frames, what are the tells? What can we look for to help us get confidence in that being a good pivot to work with? Now with this as our next target, right? And that's not I'm not forecasting a high there. I'm just saying that's the next algo target, because I promise you they bought it here. They bought it here as well, right? And then had to defend here. So we're not there yet. But let's, just again, my point being, sometimes stripping the chart bare and just starting over can be a good exercise to try and get clear-minded, because your analysis can often, cloud your judgment. So I like to encourage people to step back, look at it, forget that it's Bitcoin. If you were just staring at that chart, what would your first assumption be? Well, mine would be that that's a textbook, ABC, Elliott wave, right to the 618. That's a textbook correction. All right. With all that said, let's go down, and I'm going to start now. Just having said all of that, just because it's the most recent thing I've got here. So now I'm switching exchanges, right? I just happen to have, I've got members trading on a wide variety of exchanges here. It just happens to be my most recent work here is on GDAX. But it's going to be very, very close to Bitstamp or Bittrex or Binance, wherever you're trading. It's going to be very close. And the idea here is to use this as a template, or to get the ideas so you can do the work yourself. So here's our low, right? And as we put that in, there was a real concern that if we were going to get a three-wave correction here, that this was likely just setting up for a 3, 4, 5. So this, because of how steep that went, the thinking was that was, if that was 3 waves, we were going to put in an A, B, C there, and then we'd head down one more time to, if nothing else, just test that low. And if we break it, well, we've got market geometry down here. We can do some fib projections. There's the 100, which is a very common target, looking for a relationship between the A wave projected from the B. Well, there's 100% of it down there. So, you know, so this was the prior count. So I'm going to just show you this. So the thinking was that this was potentially what we were seeing. Right? Just so you can see it there. And if I put the wave on it, maybe it'll be easier for you to see. So this was the thinking when we first put in this low, because it certainly had the characteristics of, oh, well, there's a 1, here's our 2, big 3, retracing the 4, we don't overlap the 1, and we're headed down for a 5th, and we're going to complete it down here, and maybe very much in line with what would be a very common relationship between the A wave and the C wave at the 100%. Right, we know this was the 61865. We know that was a technical pivot, but are we done? Unfortunately, though, I mean, see, that would have been easier, right? I mean, nobody would like it necessarily, Bitcoin down here at 8,000, but that would have been awfully attractive were it offered down there. So now, if you didn't buy this, you know, you're kind of evaluating, going, okay, well, where are we now? What's most likely? So if I pull that off, well, we didn't get the easy path, right? As is often the case. So let me take the wave off of that. So you have to ask yourself, again, it's back to, well, what if the low is in? And we're over-analyzing here. And we can see what we got here. We got a 5-wave structure. So it's one of two things. Either it's the 1 wave or it's an A wave. And it's not the prettiest count, but it's certainly technical. So I'm going to move this over here so we can look at the alternate. So if you're working on the assumption that the low is in, well, you have to qualify it. Right, so I'm on the 2 hour here. I'm going to go to the 1 hour here so we can get a little better detail. Well, does this work as? I'll take that off here, right? So not to confuse. Okay, so if this is a good low, well, the first thing we see is a 5 wave off of this. So is it a 1 wave? I'll take that off so I don't confuse you. Is it a 1 wave or is it an A wave? It's one or the other. So if it's a 1-2, then here's the bullish count. Right, that's very reasonable. If we just measure it, we can pull from this low. We know that was a technical low. We go here, we go just shy of the 786. We get a 3-wave structure here, and we get subdivision in it. So we've got 5 waves in the A. We get a little choppy B. It's a shallow B, but then down we go, and we get good subdivision here. So this certainly could play as a 2. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, and when I say that, what I mean is there's no technical invalidation here from an Elliott count perspective. It's perfectly consistent. What was unusual was the size of this move relative to this as a 2-wave started to lose the symmetry that you would expect, and that's why when we were right here, it looked like that could have been the 4th, like we had an A, B, C, and then we were heading down. But we go up again, and we get this 5-wave structure. So so we can't be absolute about where we are. It's either an A wave or it's a 1 wave. If that plays, well again, how do we know? Well, we don't know until it starts to take more shape. We need more information. That certainly plays as a 2. But this, that's not what you'd hope for. Maybe you've got a 1-2 and you're just getting started, because within this 3rd wave, we've got to see subdivision. And that's not the prettiest looking launch there. I mean, I like this reaction. So maybe we've got a 1-2. So could we have this kind of thing just shaping up? Maybe we've got a 1-2. We're trying to get started on a 3rd, but we're going to need to see more aggressive buying here to push through this high. So let me just change that color, and let's go down a degree so it makes more sense. So yeah, maybe, but this will be the tell. Right? That will be the tell. Can we get a good 3rd, and can we get a technical 3rd? Because right now, we could have an A, B, C. We could still be correcting. What's happening is we're running into the resistance on the way back up, which is always the case. Well, so here's the median line. Of course, that's always going to be something to consider and factor in. But look here. So if I just pull from this swing high to this swing low, what are we running into? Well, there's the Vegas wave offering some resistance, and there's the 50, just like we ran into the 50 here. So if I pull from here to this low, we keep bumping into the 50s because that's when algo is going to sell it there. Right? Again, that's algo are just written to sell the 50s. So we're running into that. They get the reaction. They don't get their target. So it's pushing back up. Now we're hitting the next 50. So an algorithm's written to sell it there. So again, the idea, the algos aren't always right, but eventually they're going to be right because they're going to get on the right side of it. So this target here does not get hit. Well, then there's another algorithm that's going to sell it right here. Pardon me, I did that wrong. For here, that target, the green lines confuse me. There's the algo target from that 50. Right, and you can always go over to see the edge here so you don't get confused as I just did. So from that 50, that's the target down there for the algos that sold there. Then we have the smaller. Let me just do it with a different one. Then we have another cell right here looking for that target. So who wins, bulls or bears? Well, we don't know. We don't know yet. So how do we know? Well, first we've got to see something along this line here to give us some indication that we can get through this resistance here. This will be critical here. Can we get through the 65? Because then the algos will flip, right? At least some, again, there's a lot of algorithms in here. So then you'll have one that will flip and buy the next 50. So then it would look like this. It's going to come down here, and then they'll buy the next 50. With and again, you got to measure to check, right? Because you won't know until after the fact which pivot they're using. But most likely they'll use this pivot here. So we'll look there. But we as Elliott traders, we might look for the 38 in there. Again, this is right. So we're trying to use the Elliott wave to weave in and around what the algorithms are likely doing, and trying our best to figure out where they are, what they're doing, and can we kind of get in and ski behind their wake? Can we do that? And here we need to get that through that resistance here where the algos will flip and then they'll take the next 50. That's what we're trying to do. So can we get a third here? Well, how do we know it's going to be a third? Well, it has to at least, let's get 100%. So again, taking this off, knowing that resistance is there, can we get 100% here? So if that's my 1 and that's my 2, well, where's 100? All the way up here at the big 50. Last resistance we ran into. Can we get through this? Can we get through all of this resistance? Well, it remains to be seen. Right now all you can do is label it and say, okay, this is my bullish count. Can I get a 3, 4, 5 in here to tell me that I'm off of this low and I'm now going impulsive? If I can get that, well then this is the 1, 2 that I'm really working off, because the idea is this would be the 1 wave of my third wave up here, right? So if we're looking for that relationship, if that's a 1 and that's a 2, okay, well here's 100% of it. Here's my high probability zone right here. Here's my 1618, 175 window. That's the target to really, really confirm these pivots. Okay, so you can make the case, well, hey, I got a higher low. Well, that's a good sign for the bulls, but this needs to start to get impulsive for us to confirm that we're off of a 1, 2 into what would be the 1, 2 of this 3. You see that? So again, waves within waves. So can we get that third wave here? That will be the tell. If this rolls over, bad sign. Bad sign. I mean, it's hard to call this. I guess you could probably squeeze that out as a 1 wave, although it looks much more like a 3 wave to me. So this, going to be important here. Can we get this to go impulsive to confirm that this 1, 2? Don't know yet. Don't know. And we know we've got big resistance to get through here. This is the major one up here. And interestingly, so there's the 100% right here and the 618 right there. So certainly that's something to, if not be watching, alarm it, so when we get there, we see what kind of reaction we get. If we can get through that, then we're looking good. Then we can relax a little bit, if you're a Bitcoin bull, and say, okay, well, that was a technical low, so exactly what you would have expected off of the daily gets confirmed, so off we go. So then, of course, we're going to put some, if you've got 3 pivots like that, you can just look at that, that needs a pitchfork, right? So algos will use it. So interesting. So look at that, what we're going to, That's kind of interesting here. So we've got to get through that resistance right there, which I promise you there will be an algorithm that will sell it there. And the first algo is that they'll defend it there. Can they push it down? If not, listen, it's just software. They don't care. They're just going to, eventually they'll get on the right side of it, right? That's what they do. So can we get through that? Well, I want to know about that. So if you're on GDAX, I would certainly alarm 1300. I want to see what kind of reaction we get there. Can we get through that? That would be a good sign. So that's the bullish count. We're just trying to confirm this low after this low. Can we get impulsive behavior here to get more confidence that this 1-2 is playing? All right, that's the bullish side. All right, we got to consider the bearish side. Well, what if the low is not in? You got to ask the other question. You have to be prepared for it either way. So let's pull all of this off, take this off, and say, okay, well, what else could be going on? Well, if we're operating on the premise that this is a 1-2 and the 3, 4, and 5 are in, which, again, as I open this up, you can make a strong case for that. You can absolutely make the case. Well, you did have this kind of crazy wick up here, but here's the 1 here. So you get a 1, 2, 3, 4. Down we go for the 5 to complete a 3. So you definitely have an Elliott count here that works into this as a completed. So that was that low. This is the C wave, right? So here's the A, the B, and we're wondering, is this the C? Right. So if I pull back here, is this our low? Right, it certainly plays. It plays technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down we go. There's the C. Is this the 1, 2? Well, what's the alternative? Well, if this is an A, B, then we've got other things we have to consider. So if this plays, since we had the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right into the 50, since we had this wave here, this could certainly be an A wave. We've got a 3-wave subdivision here. That could be the B wave, which means our C wave is headed up here. So if we just start measuring that and we think about it, so let me change the degree so that you can follow that. It makes more sense. So we'll go to minuet. Okay, so this becomes a question mark now. So we got to look at this and go, okay, that completes as an ABC, but if I go ABC into this, well, let's look at that. So if this is, we know we've got a technical low here. We know we've got a technical pivot here. It's a front run on the 50. Here's the 786. Well, if that's going up for a C, well, look how that lines up. Well, that's kind of interesting. So I get my algo target right there, that green line, right, I mean, within, a few dollars of the 618. Which we know is going to be resistance. Well, so now you look at that and go, well, okay, what else could I measure? Well, I could measure the length of the A relative to the B, or pardon me, the A projected from the B. Well, that's interesting. Here's my 100%. If I wiggle that, can you see that? You see that red 100? So that goes right there. So that's right in line. Now I've got massive confluence there. Right? If you're a bull, that's real concern. Because in addition to that, remember, as we just did it, looking for the market geometry, look what else I got lining up there. Right? So I've got a lot of confluence right here telling me that that's going to be a major, major crossroads for Bitcoin. Right there. Bang. That's as much confluence as we had at this pivot down here. Right? If we're going here, so okay, well, what if we do that? What does that do to our account? So if we're going up here, and we're going to put in a C wave here, if this is A, B, C, then from the larger degree, we got to reconcile that. So this is bad news for bulls. So this could be A, B, C down here, and I got to make that. Let's put that in yellow, and we got to go to a bigger count so you can get a handle on where we are. So that's the bearish count. If we put in ABC there and we start to head down, where's the algo target? Right there. Look how that lines up down here. So you get a little sense of perspective on that. We could very easily be going, if this is 3 waves here and we run into this resistance and we can't get through it, that's the likely outcome. Bad news for bulls, but it's one of the potential paths that we're on. We don't know, right? and here's the other thing to confuse it. If this is a B wave, to make it challenging, this C wave is going to have 5 waves in it, right? Which is, so this is the bitch of it, right? So here, if this is 1, 2, we're anticipating 5 waves here. But if this is BC, we're also anticipating 5 waves there. So how are you going to know? Well, you're not going to know for sure until after the fact. So all you can do is trade it. Well, are you a long-term bull on Bitcoin? I mean, it's, at some point you have to pick a side and say I'm willing to risk some capital because I think that's going to be a 3, and even though I know I'm going to run into that resistance, this will be the tell. Can we get through this? Because remember, if this is a 1, 2, the high probability zone that we mapped out with the bullish count is up here. If this is 1, 2, and we get through this, then we know we got a 3. Right? And you're not going to know until after the fact. Then we get the 4, right? Look. So here, look at the pitchfork on that. So 3, 4, then we're off to the 5, and we're out, and we're in the clear. But you're not going to know. You're not going to know until we get there. So you have to take some calculated risks, right? Welcome to trading. That's all you can do. That's all you can do is say, I'm willing to risk X amount of dollars on this trade because I think the low is in. Remember, go back to the daily. Does that look like a technical low? I mean, it couldn't be any more technical. But you have to allow for the alternative here, because if this doesn't get through here and we don't push up to, Bitcoin loves the 618. So if we can't get through and get to, here's the 1618, highest probability zone if this is a 1-2. If we roll over here, you got to be prepared for that. And what's that, 7150? So how do you trade it? Well, when you get here, if you're long, if you're trying to get long in here, well, you got reasonable targets there. So if we are going to get a 1-2, and this is eventually going to go into a 3, 4, 5 of either a 1, the 1 of the 3, or the 1 of the C, we won't know. Again, it's all relative to the scale that we see in here. First thing we got to do is we got to get through this 50% that we're running into already. So if I go back here and I pull this, like as I showed you, just looking here, we haven't gotten through the 50 yet, and there's the Vegas wave right there. So first thing we got to do is get through that. Then we got to get through the 618, 65 here on the other side of the Vegas wave. Then we got to get through the larger 50 and the median line. A lot of resistance up above. So it's going to take big volume, aggressive buying to push through all that resistance. So it's kind of a mess. So, one thought is until we get more clarity, you just sidelines. It's reasonable. If we're going to stay in a range here, well, that's certainly friendly to alt trading. Right? Bitcoin in a range is the best case scenario for alts. So focus on alts. Because we just don't, there's no way to know which way we're going. I mean, you'll know, after the fact, it'll be, of course. But we're not going to know. So this is the first thing we got to get through. So that we can relax as Bitcoin bulls, we can relax and say, okay, we're off to new highs. Back to 20, and as I showed you on the daily, then we're back to this is our target here, right? So simplifying, again, does that look like a good low? And so if you think about it, that what I was just showing you here, if we're going up here and we're going to fail there and then we're coming down, it's going to look like that. So if I put this on here and look at that, right? So there's the 618, here's the negative 23. Right? If we're going to do that, that would be your buy zone down here. If it rolls over, bang. Again, so look at the lower parallel. Here's the negative 23.6. That's the algo target from the cells here. Here's the wave 1. So we haven't what I propose and the count that I'm working off of. This is a 1, 2, 3, and we're looking for the 4. If we come down here, well, we don't violate the count. Here's the 786. Yeah, that's deep. But if this comes over here and we end up with, I have to add the subdivision here. But if we end up with that, so it would look something like that. If we get that, I know I'm going to buy it there. If it's offered there, Bitcoin, if someone came up to you and said, hey, man, I'll offer you, would you like to buy some Bitcoin at 7,500? How much are you selling? All right, guys, I'll wrap it there.